Now, we've done a lot of videos on understanding how to design graphics and logos and a lot of very heavy, intense graphical work in general. But what if you want to stand out from your audience and you want to do something a little bit more different? Well, that's where cut and sew comes into part. Cut and sew is fairly more expensive to produce because now you're building these garments completely from scratch rather than printing on blanks. For this, you're going to have to do a lot of extensive research to understand exactly what type of garment you're producing. And even in this video, the steps that I show you are just going to be the fundamentals that will get you from idea to almost production ready. So even past this step, you will have to do a lot more research when it comes to materials, actually measuring out all your sizes, and even finding stuff like hardware and understanding what type of garment stitching and sewing you want on your garment so it fits the aesthetic that you're going for. Now, to the right of me, we have Notion open, and that's going to be the board that we collect our ideas in. And the primary program we have open right now is Photoshop. A lot of people are in my comments asking me what programs I'm using. I'm either using Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, or Kittle for the occasional logo videos, etc. For this, we're going to be opening Photoshop, putting your opacity image or reference image to a low 60 to 40% where it's still visible and you can still see the lines, but it's enough where you can draw over it and you're not confused on which layer you're drawing on. Next, we're going to introduce a symmetry line by holding brush and going up to the little butterfly icon towards the top. You can introduce any symmetry line you want. Now, I'm going to be using just some regular brush, set the sensitivity all the way to negative or low. And we're going to start just sketching in our actual garment. Now we have this reference image below us here, but don't use this too much as a confining area. More so use it as a base to understand what you want to build on top of this garment. Obviously, like a sketch on top of another sketch, if that kind of makes sense. So just take your time and understand exactly what type of custom garment and what type of look or effect you're going for. Now for this, I'm going for a very dramatic, oversized look and fit, and that's exactly what I'm trying to sketch here. So I'm just going to skip forward past this part and you're going to see my whole sketching process. I introduce colors such as red to do a little bit more refinement, and that's about it. Honestly, sketching is just what makes you feel most comfortable, and sketch to the point where you feel like you're ready to take this into Illustrator, because once you start using vectors, this process isn't as simple anymore. For this process, I'm also using a drawing tablet. You can find drawing tablets all over Amazon, and the ones I recommend is probably the XP Pen Star 06, which is an amazing alternative to the Wacom tablets, and I've been using it honestly for around 4 years. I just recently updated to the wireless one, still the same brand, and I cannot stress how good that product actually is for the price. And don't forget to always turn off the layers underneath so you can get a better understanding of what your garment is actually looking like, and you can go in and refine it. Like I said before, I'm just going through sketching and understanding what type of pattern that we have on our garment. And also, since this is going to have different panels, we're doing the classic flat layout rather than the garment coming inside or to your shoulder, or how it would fit on a body. This way, the manufacturer is able to see what the garment pattern looks like completely without having to guess what certain sections or certain parts like the sides would look like when this garment is put together. After we have our flats done, all you want to do is take a screenshot of your front and back sketch. If you did a front or back sketch, just depending on what type of garment you're designing. Yet again, this is just a process video. Take a screenshot and just import that directly into Illustrator. After you've got that, you just want to lock the sketch layer and introduce a new layer on top where you're going to be drawing in your vector lines. Now you can either use the pen tool or pencil tool, whichever is most comfortable for you. So N is the shortcut for the pencil tool and P is the shortcut for the pen tool. Now for the heavy lines for the garment, like the primary outline, I'm using a width size of 2, which is what I usually use. And for the buttons and stitching and also the little details like the collar and cufflinks, I'm using a size of 1, which is the width or pixels of the brush, whatever you want to call it. But 2 for the primary and 1 for all the secondary stuff. Let me guys show you a tip for more cleaner lines. Essentially, all you need to do is make a point to point, just a straight line, and then introduce a curve point within the middle of the garment. This way, it saves you a lot of mistakes by using a lot of anchor points and making it look jagged and unnatural. And it looks a little bit more hand-drawn this way. Of course, you can use the pencil tool and hand-drawn all these curves in yourself, but even then a lot of anchors come up, and this way it looks a lot more cleaner. For reference, this is what it would look like if you were to draw it in, these curves completely from scratch using a pencil tool. Of course, you can always change the sensitivity of the actual line in itself so it looks more computerized rather than hand drawn. This way you get a lot cleaner line, but even then this still does look quite rough, but we're going for it look like this anyway, so we're going to keep it as is. When it comes to line work, I see a lot of people doing a lot more work than they should be, and this is where the whole history of Illustrator comes into par. That's why I always tell people to learn the fundamentals first. Since we got our shape, we can always just duplicate where our stitch line is going to be using the original outline, and then just extrude it a little bit more so it fits the rest of the garment. And this way we can introduce a stitch line that's perfectly aligned with our original outline of the garment without having to draw this line in again, unless you're doing custom stitching in the areas to make some sort of pattern or something like that. This is probably the easiest way. Make sure to go back and close off all the points that you accidentally opened up, just to make sure everything is looking good. Down the line, you see there's points where I kind of mistaken and forgotten about, and it does come back to bite you if you don't go back and edit those points back in. So just to add a stitch line, all you have to do is press the stroke and add in a dashed line. 4 to 6 is usually the measurements that I use for a lot of smaller projects, but this can always go bigger if you're doing something like a sewn pattern in the back. But if you are doing custom sew, like I said before, make sure to understand the different stitches and understanding what type of stitch you want to go with the aesthetic your jacket is going with. Since we have that, we're just going to go through and finish this whole outline now, and we're going to do one side and then we're going to duplicate it. And if you've watched my original how to make a technical pack, you'll understand why, because we're not going to do the extra work if we already have one side done. I'm going to show you another neat trick that can save you some time. So for instance, I have this custom square pocket. Let's say I want to make a stitch pattern for the square pocket without having to make another circle. All you have to do is go path and offset path, set that to around 2 or 1.5 just to see where the measurements of the stitch is going to be, and you can easily create a stitch line for your garment, which is absolutely phenomenal. This saves you a lot of time, especially if you're making pockets and you need to indicate where your pockets are going to be stitched around, or you're making something like a kite or something like that, making some sort of custom bag or something. This comes into a very handy tool in the box. After we have our garment constructed the way we want it to be on one side, like I said, you don't have to do two sides just because we're going to duplicate it. All you have to do is group the whole side together by selecting it and pressing Command G, and then holding Option and dragging across, and then right clicking and press reflection. And this way you can easily create the other side so everything is completely symmetrical with the garment in itself. Highlight both of the selections and make sure they're aligned correctly, and then you can go in and start adding all the additional things like the collar and also the middle part for the buttons, and essentially your garment is complete at this point. And then you can start working on the back. The back is always 10 times easier to do because all we're doing is duplicating the front and removing things like the collar and where the jacket would button up, and that's about it, honestly. And we're also going to introduce these little stitch custom panels, and I'm going to show you guys how I make these little stitch custom panels like the one going across the middle. After drawing your line, just go path and then offset path and click the direct selection tool and delete the middle line in itself. Press Command Y so you can see the outline and adjust the line so it fits the garment construction, and that's about it. And I'm going to be turning these into stitch lines, so all we have to do is basically select this and then use the eyedrop selection tool and select any of the stitch lines that we have, and that's going to let us develop this pattern. All that's left to do is just go back and finish off the back, add in any lines that are not connecting, and just clean up everything. You're gonna have to be a little bit surgical with this, especially with the offset lines that we have going through the middle and stuff like that. But yeah, take your time. Don't rush anything, because I tend to rush and I accidentally delete lines that shouldn't be deleted. So yeah, especially on the back, that's when you start to get lazy, because you've already developed the front and you just want to get things over and done with, and you want to go straight into color. Over and done with, sorry. I also just decided to add in the branding or logo just to see what the pattern would look like with our actual logo on there. Like I said, you could go without a logo and just let the design/pattern speak for itself, or you can introduce logos and stuff like that. The reference piece for the Palace jacket is what I'm using a lot for this, and I really like how that garment looks and how it's constructed. I'm pretty sure that's just a varsity that's made all in leather, or what they would classify as a racing jacket sometimes, or a modified modern racing jacket. But that's the reference that I'm going with. I'm not going to do any heavy graphical work. Like I said, we're just focusing on the actual garment construction in itself. And right now I'm just going to be developing the pocket. So the pocket for itself is going to be sort of a Velcro attachable pocket. And I really like that aesthetic at the moment that people have, where you can attach and reattach buttons and pockets and stuff like that. And it just adds another selling point for your garment, or unique selling proposition. And that's about it. After you've got this all done, all you have to do is go directly into coloring. Now this pocket isn't that fun in terms of construction. We've done everything. All I'm doing is adding some triangles for the actual zipper teeth, and that's about it. Lastly, you just want to make a copy of all your patterns, everything, and put them onto a new layer. And that's going to be this green layer. Like I said, the red layer is the layer that I was working in, and I just copied over everything. I'm just double checking to make sure I have the original lines in there. And from here, we can just go up and expand, and also just expand and flatten the image, or flatten the lines so they're no longer lines and they're easier to color in. And from here, you can just use the shape builder tool to build a shape for everything and bring everything together. This way, all the lines are enclosed and it's easier to color in using the shape builder tool. Now for color in itself, just go up to the color books and press Pantone Uncoded. That's the color codes that I like to work in, especially for manufacturers. I don't know why. My design teacher from university just recommended that I do it this way, and I'm not going to argue with somebody who has more experience than me, so I'm like, fine, let's just do it that way. And just go in and select the colors that you want. For black, I usually use this like Pantone gray, and then I just indicate that it's black, primarily because I still want my outlines to be shown. And if you use solid black, your outlines get hidden, and there is no point of that, because now you've just done all this line work for no reason. Now you can truly understand why we expanded all those shapes, because we can just go in with the shape builder tool and essentially just click where we want our new colors to be in certain sections. And I'm going for a two-tone look here, with a darker color on the outside and a cream color on the inside, and essentially that's about it. And from here, you can start introducing things like your lines and indicating what sort of garment you would like to produce. And I'm going to be showing you guys just quickly the fundamentals. Like, this is the baseline of all the things that you should be including for your technical if you are going into production for this, excluding things like a size chart and obviously like a full material breakdown and an inside material breakdown. Off rip, you're gonna have to indicate how thick you want this divider line to be. Obviously we kept it white, but you're gonna really have to indicate what type of size you're gonna want to do this with. And I like to use red for darker garments and blue for lighter garments. It just looks aesthetically pleasing to me. There is no difference. Or if I'm doing a lot of things together, I'll use blue and green to indicate different parts of the actual technical, and that comes in handy, especially when you're doing like a, I guess, varsity jacket and you have a bunch of Celine patches. Another major thing is to indicate your sleeve length. But don't do what I did and put it all the way to the cuffs, unless you want the sleeve and cuffs to be together within that sleeve length. But if you're doing a custom cuff size, like you're doing an exaggerated cuff or something like that, indicate the cuff separately. Also indicate how thick you want your waistband to be. Like I said before, if you're not going to be including that within your actual garment length. Indicate your garment length and also your garment width. Definitely don't forget your pockets and also things like your collar. Lastly, just indicate what sort of pocket you're doing, and I'm doing a Velcro backing for this. And yeah, that's about it. And make sure you have names for everything and you put sizes on everything. I'm not going to put the sizes on anything because I'm not producing this garment, but I'm just going to show you a quick run through or speed run of what are the sort of names that you're going to have to include. And I'm going to put a screenshot up so you guys can see. The final point to include is the sort of colors that you're going to go with. I just went the safe cream and black, but obviously there's a bunch of colors out there, and make sure you understand the sort of market you're going into and what type of people would be wearing this shirt. Are they muted? Are they really into heavy streetwear like Hype Beast? Are they more mature and wear like the Jar Jar Banks, whatever they're called, New Balances, or JJ Round, I forgot her name. But yeah, understand your market, develop colors for that market. Most people just go for the colors that match the trending shoes, and I would recommend that because shoes tend to be an indicator for people's outfit, and that's what I usually go with when I'm developing client projects. Lastly, I love you guys. Thank you for checking out the video. I see you guys when I see you next. And also the final update and also a new pro version of the technical pack where the lines are not expanded and there's going to be a lot more flat graphics like this are going to be coming within the near future. I see you guys when I see you, and we're almost up to 20K. Love you. Peace.